Hello. Thanks for being here. About 8 years ago, I came back to my hometown of Ithaca, New York. I'd been out west for a long time. I'd been traveling for almost 10 years, and I'd stayed here for a year of that and did this and went where spirit called me, really. And that was often amazing. That was often a holistic center where I was suddenly inspired to do work beyond the level that I anticipated I could do. And then it was, frequently I'd be just like left alone in the woods for quite a while and just sort of like twiddling my thumbs, being like, what is it that you want me to learn now? And after all that time, during all that time, I was mostly heavily motivated by just a deep distrust for mainstream reality. I, I experienced everything connected to this monster that just consumes. And as an energy worker and someone who had become extremely aware of resonance wherever I went, I would encounter people on a daily basis and have some sense of what was going on for them, and a real direct awareness that people consume and buy and distract themselves to avoid the real problems. And that in almost every case, that kind of a lifestyle is taken out of your earth. You hear this? Now, this might seem like a little thing, right? But there's a really loud truck going by right now. And that's normal to us. In this world that we live in, it is completely normal for gigantic machines to make a ton of noise, and no one would. It's like you can barely contemplate that that's wrong, that there's a violation in that. We'd have to restructure so many layers of our society in order to make that a priority. And I spent over a decade deeply aware that I exist in a space that doesn't fit. See, to me, sound is paramount. Like what I hear has a tremendous impact on my consciousness for the day. So when I can't have some level of peace with that, or certainly when I couldn't, it was really difficult for me to tune in and feel. And over the course of that time, I was consistently confronted with this tension between what of these challenges that I live within can I manage, and which of them are basically impossible for me to deal with. And I got better. I got a lot better. And, it began at this space where every single parking lot that I'd see, I was just like, that used to be dirt. They killed the grass. They killed the field. It was deep. It was very difficult for me to function on a daily basis, particularly since, I drive around and I just see the highways and experience the highways as this like violent thrust through the middle of an ecosystem. And that's what I'd see. I would see what was there before. And obviously, that's not a functional way to continue. You can't spend all your time conscious of things that you can't change in a way that induces suffering here. And, as much as I can see the suffering in other people, if they're focused on their coping mechanisms, me screaming only makes me look like someone who screams a lot. And as a result, I was given these extreme versions of my own personal need to change my consciousness, my own need to be able to survive and thrive in the face of a society that didn't see me. And it worked. Year after year, I was given new practices, new ways of responding to forces that I didn't think I would ever be able to tolerate, to the point where now I'm kind of great. Like, I mean, it's not perfect by any means, and I'm actually taking it to the next level right now, where there's a level of thriving that I can feel on a daily basis, where I need much less sleep than I used to. I'm not fully shifted into it, but it's starting to work. Like I've gone many nights 4 or 5 hours of sleep recently in the past couple months, and I mean most nights, somewhere in between, and the result of being present with sometimes really quick meditations. Like I just did I did my 5 minute standing yoga break right now. And with the focus of the chakras and breaths, I can move through so much and stay aware. So here's the focus for today. I want to introduce you to the magic that I began with. And in many cases, this is something that you're probably aware of. So I'd be honored if you just allow me to highlight, amplify something that you're already with, something that you're already present with. 20 years ago, we're going back so I can try to get into the space. 20 years ago, I was working just off Wall Street. I was working in this office. It was long. It had windows on two sides. I was supposed to have a boss, the system administrator, but they never hired him. So I was like doing his work and my work, supporting all the computers and running the servers and for about 50 people. And honestly, I wasn't all that good at it, but somehow everything just kept, it was a farce. It was like everything kept going well. Like people would have problems and I'd just show up and the problems would sort of disappear. And I ended up looking good again and again. And I'd be there like, I'm not even very good at this work. But somehow I was in sync. And the more in sync I was in a way that made the work easy, the more I was just aware that I didn't fit. And I was getting messages of how to focus. It was like a multitasking in my mind. And all of a sudden I wanted a stethoscope. Now I have to tell you, this is one of the most dangerous choices you can make. And I mean that in full humor and seriousness, both. It is a devastating choice to really learn to listen to your heart. I can't exaggerate it. The power of this choice changes everything. And I sort of only didn't really know that. So I bought the stethoscope. And oddly enough, it feels important to say I didn't remember what a stethoscope was. I had to look it up. Like I had to search it on the internet and be like, oh yeah, it's one of those doctor's things that listens to the heart. So I went to a medical supply store and walked up 4 flights of stairs and bought one. And I started wearing it under my shirt. And it would mostly disappear, but every once in a while someone would ask me. And, I guess I was that weird computer guy, they kind of let it slide through, but I was off in my corner listening to my heart. How often do you do it? Seriously, how often do you listen to your heart? Just put a hand here. Put a hand here. Don't change anything at first. Make this a habit. Put your hand here and don't change anything. Don't change your breath. Nothing. Just stop. Then you'll want a deeper breath. You will want a deeper breath. So take it. Let it. Both. They kind of go together. It's an amazing combination of allowing and taking. It's a transcendence. It's right here. It's right here. The simplest motion of your breath. You can experience it. Now, do you hear the beat? Can you feel it? Just that much. Now keep going with that. Just this much will change your day. Seriously. Now, you can bury it, certainly, by distracting yourself and shifting your attention. But what's happening is your heartbeat is reaching every cell in your body. Your heart is the transistor for your chakra. The heart chakra talks to the heart muscle. And everything you change about your consciousness in your heart then gets spread to every cell in your body. It's very direct through the blood. I hope you are aware of Emoto's water work. It's amazing stuff. And it's very simple. When someone meditates on a jar of water, they change the vibration of the water. This is a jar of water, okay? That right here, you have a jar of water. It's full of liquid that easily takes on the resonance of what you put here. And once it takes on that resonance spread to your whole body. It's the foundation. It's the foundation for what's happening. And far too many people, their foundation is stress in the heart. And because it's stress here, you don't feel it. And forgive me, I'm talking to you, the people for whom this is true. Unfortunately, it's so many. Because you are in pain here, the instinct is to numb it. The instinct is to distract it. The instinct is to overwhelm it. The instinct is to create pretty much exactly the culture that we've got. And the choice is to listen. And all too often, when people first will hear this message, you're being encouraged to listen to a heart that's in pain. So why would you want to listen? It's such a simple circle, Of course, it hurts. And I can't tell you how many times that I want to say, if you stick your finger into a hot burner, it's going to hurt. Two choices. You really do have two choices. Most people don't think you have two choices because most people do the obvious thing. You pull your finger out. You don't put your finger into the burner. But the reality is that your other choice is you can take heroin and block out the pain. Or meth. It's probably going to take something stronger to really avoid the pain of a burning flame. You do that, you can keep your finger in the fire. And that's exactly what most people are doing every day. They're in pain. And pain is not something, to do away with when it's telling you how to change your behavior. The pain in your heart is telling you how to change. And that's why it's so dangerous to listen. Welcome. In this pause, I will say, I'm really excited for you to be here. I love this. And I honestly thought I was going to wait until I had 1,000 subscribers to do live classes, partly because I really do need a business model. And when you have 1,000 subscribers, you can set it up so people can donate money to you. And I will appreciate donations, and I'm not going to ask very much. I want to be in a space where, some people give me some and I say thank you, and it's kind of like hint. And I really want to find the balance of you are so welcome to be here without giving. It's just that I would appreciate it too. I want to set up a sustainable life model. About 8 years ago, I came back to my hometown in this space of resenting mainstream reality, but having all these extraordinary gifts and tools to share. And I set the intention to start to, find a way to be professional. And it was hard. It was really difficult for me because I resent so many things that this. Every day there was some challenge that, could be a trigger of I'm selling out if I do this or that. And I got an office in an integrative medicine center and I started teaching classes, and I had two things going. I was trying to sell a course, that was my plan. And I also had a donation-based gathering once a week where I did what I'm doing. I teach on a theme. Then I do readings, which will be coming. I will be offering live readings in a little bit. Then I do readings, and we'd always do some yoga, some of the yoga sequences that I have as sequences and videos. It was great. It was wonderful. And yet in this mainstream reality where I had a rent, I was just calculating, and it's well, I don't make as much money this way. And so I was constantly prioritizing the course that I was selling in a way that really wasn't true to me. Because the fact of the matter is the donation class was much better. Like I loosened, I'm like happier, I feel less pressure, I'm more natural. And I really want people to be able to show up and be present without the pressure of like, give me, give me, give me. I hate that fucking feeling. Give me all the time. It's not natural. So the truth of the matter is I had a small office. I could only fit about 9, 8 people at a time. And that limitation, made it not so great. But on the internet, as of last week, I like fully clicks, like I can do this every week. Eventually I can have enough people that I get a reasonable, amount of donations. I don't have to put pressure on people. I could just do it and hopefully really be a blessing to a lot of people, many of whom, maybe you don't have much money. And I have zero interest in trying to get money from people who don't have much money, particularly in times of hardship. So that's my NPR public service announcement. All right. Thank you for being here. In a little bit, we're going to do some live readings. And now I want to bring this to you. Where are you at? Do you feel energy? It's a really crucial question because the reality is you do, but how are you aware of it? I would say the majority of people I know, they don't know how to distinguish between what an energetic feeling is and what a physical sensation is. So when you have a feeling, it's just called a feeling. and even our language reflects this, right? We don't discern a distinction. But realistically, some things are very physically induced. Like if you touch your hand, you feel that it's physical, right? But if you change your thoughts and you shift from a negative thought of some sort, a resentment, into something that contains awareness, gratitude, appreciation, you're going to feel it like that. It changes like that. All right. It's the vibes go from to it's an immediate shift and you feel it. But in a life where you're training yourself not to feel it because you're so often feeling stressed, you can't interpret it. So you can't respond to it. So you can't learn from it. So you can't make better choices based on this feedback that's here all the time. Thank you. Thank you, Radek. Forgive me. I struggle every time I read. And so sometimes I'm not going to pick up on certain comments and I'm really grateful for them. It feels awesome to have people present and communicating in a way that, it makes it worthwhile and it makes it present. I can't tell you, it's like I live in a community that's very progressive and holistic. Nonetheless, the themes that I have to share and the themes that I am sharing effectively online, I'm finding people who are really present with them. And it's just comment after comment, like email after email I'm getting from people who are this wonderful balance of gracious, grateful, curious, knowledgeable. Like it's wonderful. It's what I've been seeking. So I'm so glad for you to be here. Thank you for your time and your respect. The reason the chakras are so awesome is because they channel all this. Okay. Now you have to be present with this in a way that can last. There's a dynamic relationship between what is real and what you make real. You've heard of the quantum physics truth that when quantum physicists stare at disintegrating electrons, they change them. So quantum measurements suggest that when you smash two particles against each other, they shatter into different forms, and you can measure what those forms are, and they call them up, down, strange. They have weird names for them. If the scientists set up the experiment to stare at strange, it's like 40% more likely to end up there. Their attention bends reality towards what they are witnessing. When you stare at yourself with an awareness for what the chakras channel, with an awareness for how they channel reality, it works better. When you ignore it, it's very rudimentary. it's like your third eye and your heart are functioning. And the rest of it is kind of chaotic. Your pelvis obviously functions sometimes, your gut functions sometimes, but it's just kind of, it's like everything's unplugged, everything's unraveled. But when you bring your focus to bear, when you do some level of practice to reinforce what the themes of each chakra are, and when you do some attempt at connecting your thoughts and your feelings to chakras that work with those thoughts and feelings, you bend reality in that direction. You help it be more true. You help them work more effectively. There's an amazing researcher named Rupert Sheldrake. He wrote some books in the 80s that, mainstream journals threatened to burn. He was chair of the Cambridge chemistry department, and he was also like this extreme dude who went off to India and studied with yogis. And they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle what he was teaching. So he broke away and he started doing his best to articulate a scientific interpretation of spiritual and mystical reality. And his basic idea is just so solid. It's called morphogenic fields. And what it says is that every idea, every culture, every song has a field of energy. And that field is relatively independent of geography on the earth. So anyone who thinks about it on the earth will be participating in that field. It's true. and as a result of studying it, you can start to relate to this basic, he used a breakthrough sort of analogy where he said, there's 100 monkeys on an island. Okay. These monkeys, there's coconuts there, but they almost never get to eat the coconuts because they don't know how to open them. But every once in a while, a coconut will fall and crack open, and it's like a delicacy. Oh my God, it's amazing. The coconut cracked open. So they all get excited. Well, one day, a guy saw a coconut fall, a monkey saw a coconut fall, and he ran over to grab the coconut, and it hadn't broken, and he's pissed. And so he picks it up and he throws it. It cracks open. He's like, oh my God, breakthrough. I can break open the coconut. So he teaches his friends. And for weeks, they're eating coconuts. They're high on life. And 90, 95, 100 monkeys on that island learn how to open the coconuts. And the 100th monkey makes it strong. It just makes it that much stronger. So it's resonating. They know. These monkeys know how to open coconuts. And on the land, away from the island, on the mainland, light bulb comes on. One of the monkeys on the mainland just knows how. He just knows. He taps in. There's a strong enough signal in the monkey energy morphogenic field that the knowledge of the collective goes to him. And he knows it. He learns it. So this is a fundamental way of understanding how chakras work with you. There are fields of sets of energy centers associated with many different cultures. The Kabbalah has Sephirot, the Koakal, the Maya use, the Dantian, the Chinese use. Many cultures worked with energy centers. In fact, the Indians work with all sorts of different sets. You can go back to ancient, they have all sorts of different chakras, and they have a highly articulate relationship to like different priorities. So there were major chakras and minor chakras. Some people will tell you there's 1,000 chakras. It's nuts how many people are so sure that their system is the best, right? But the reality is they all work. They all work, sorta. If you tune into them, it will make it more effective for you. So the more you reinforce it, the more functional it'll be. But the question is, what works best and why? So there's one solid math point to make here and one magnificent leap of faith. I'm going to read these comments. Thank you. Hey, Marquise. Eddie, thanks for being here, man. Haldi, wow, you guys are awesome. I love this. It's really beautiful to get to know you this way. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Enjoying the Pisces moon. Math. You can work with 1,000 chakras consciously. You can work with 15. You can work with 7. You can work with 3. But the math says that 12 works best. And this shouldn't be a discussion. It's absurd to me that it's a discussion, but it's just music. Look at every musical instrument present in most Western societies. Now, you got to give props to the Indians because they're one of the only cultures that tries to use more, and I'll explain it briefly. But almost every major culture nowadays is using 12-note instruments because the math of it cycles. And I always try to give just enough to make this make sense and not so much that it's boring or overwhelming. But the basic point is that if you take a wavelength that's this long, and then you take a wavelength that's double the length of that, and draw this, learn about it and draw it. 1, 2. Now what you're going to do is you're going to make 12 wavelengths in between there. So it goes, whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm not drawing this well. I've got to get, if you're good with graphics, I really need better graphics for this because I've tried to do it and they're terrible. So when you make 12 different waves in between 1 and 2, so 1.1, 1.3, 1.6, like that, and there's specific numbers to it, they fit into each other. They all harmonize, and they harmonize in very elegant patterns that you can draw. And in that harmony, you can see it by drawing it, and you can hear it, which is the most important part. And what you get is the standard scales that everybody uses. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That scale is beautiful for a reason because it's mathematically coherent. Same thing's true of light. Waves are waves. Sound waves are waves. Light waves are waves. What's important about music is that they're relating in ratios. It's how they exist in relationship to each other. So if you do the same ratio for light, it might be much, 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 much smaller of a wavelength, but they're still the same in relation to each other. It's the same reason different colors look good together and others don't. Because their hue is a different wavelength, and those wavelengths either harmonize or contrast. So when we're aiming to understand this, the math actually does end up helping a lot, and it always circles back to this 12. 12. 12, 12, 12. The 13th is do, do, a whole octave different. The 13th is one octave, and then you start the whole thing over. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I won't do that to you too much. Every 12, the pattern starts over. So when you're working with 12 notes, you can make a beautiful range of music. When you're working with 12 chakras, you can make a beautiful range of music. So in inviting you all, in encouraging you all past the boundaries of this 7 chakra system, I want to keep reinforcing the sense this is not actually all that radical a step. It's radical in relation to the culture because people aren't doing it, but it's really obvious mathematically, and there's precedent. Now, the precedent is the rich part. This is the mystical part. It's built in. It's built in. We're a part of an amazing, it's beyond game, it's beyond play. We're part of a beautiful, beautiful revelation where we get to connect pieces of understanding to unlock our own capacity. And it's built in. It's built in for us. The human energy system, the human physical system is set up to link in to this 12 chakra system. And when you start to activate it, it helps you awaken and stabilize awakening. So some people are being awakened anyway. You get these notes are playing in the air and they're affecting you. These energies are vibrating. They're dancing in the world around us now. They didn't used to be nearly as much, and now they are. It's purposeful. It's a way that mass numbers of people can be awakened together. All you do is just start playing some music, some energetic light music, and it tickles you and it starts affecting you in sometimes more negative ways because it drives you crazy. Have you ever been in a room in which 2 different kinds of music were playing? This is the most phenomenal analogy. Do it. Play 2 different kinds of music. It's painful. It's painful. It's painful to have two different contradictory kinds of music playing at once. And that's what it often feels like when a new energy comes into a space that used to be coherent. You've been living in a way that's consistent, and then all of a sudden a new energy comes in, and it's like, stop. Drives you crazy. Well, you know what this looks like in a practical level? What we're calling manic depression. No shit. Like, people are getting sick. They're being diagnosed as sick because they are suffering, but they're suffering in relation to something that's trying to wake up. And without the proper relationship to these forces, the suffering gets worse and it becomes a dominant theme. You start to identify the entire experience as suffering. I'm someone who suffers. Oh, no, actually, you're someone who's more aware. Now, I have to say, I'm kind of caustic. Like, I'm a little impatient. I've been tough. I lived, people have certainly had it harder, but I've lived a rougher life since leaving my high paying job. And I don't have a particularly high degree of tolerance for this, like, oh, I'm a wilty flower, don't touch me. I'm so empathic that I get hurt. Specifically because you can't afford it. Like, you've got to learn to take care of yourself, and you have to identify yourself as someone who's actually extremely strong. You're learning to cope with intense gifts, and it's very challenging. So you end up looking like you're suffering, but you cannot buy into other people's interpretation of that. You can't afford it. You can't afford it because too many beautiful souls who awaken early get identified as weak, get identified as crazy, get identified as untrustworthy. And I'm unfortunately, all too many of you probably relate to this. At best, you're weird, right? You're the weird person in the group. And it's completely unacceptable because the reality is you're working with forces, you're working with awareness, you're working with gifts that they don't even know exist. And the lack of respect of the community you live in and the society we live in is something that you have to be cold, you have to be strong, and you're going to have the will to survive through this and thrive, because you must be able to use your gifts so well that you end up succeeding in ways that other people can't. And you can get there. It's my greatest gift. And this is why I like money hogwash. My deepest calling is to help people who are suffering in these ways, because I can't tell you enough how much compassion I have for how difficult it is and how unacceptable it is to have beautiful souls who are awakening with deep gifts that everybody needs, everybody lacks. And yet you get labeled as crazy, or you get labeled as, untrustworthy or unstable, anything negative, in order to distance themselves from your gifts. So the only solution to this is you have to go a little internal. You have to stop sharing with people who don't get it. And you have to get good. You have to get good. You have to get good at taking care of yourself. And you have to get good at learning to recognize that sometimes you can't change the new music. Sometimes that new music is actually supposed to be playing, and the problem is the old music. And that sucks. The new music, this beautiful new music, is coming to life all around us. And if you are one of the first people to hear it, you have to learn to navigate this tension between hearing a music that is new and living in music that's it will increasingly get dreary. In fact, most of you are probably sick of it already, right? But we can't turn it off yet. We still live in it. We still live in a world where giant trucks can roll by and everybody thinks it's normal. Nobody would even dream of complaining. Why do these fucking motorcycles never get noise violations? Like, people can plow through, but we've just let go of noise as something that's controllable in a society that just has giant machines as the priority. Well, we can be cynical about it. We could be, edgy, but we can't spend every day suffering about it. You have to be able to navigate and survive. And these tools are here to help you. Oh, bless your heart. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to hear it. Here it is. It's like so many people, that this is the first thing that happened for me. I started experiencing this chaos. I was listening to my heart. For those of you who weren't here at the beginning, I've introduced this with how 20 years ago, I'm in a mainstream job. I started listening to my heart with a stethoscope. When I listened to my heart, I started awakening an awareness of what was happening in my body, that my heart My heart was telling me that this perfect job and this perfect career path that I was on was miserable for me. And I had to try to navigate that contrast, and I looked crazy. My friends reacted against me. My coworkers reacted against me. And the first thing that happened, like I didn't sleep. My personal story is I didn't sleep for 5 days. 5 days. Like nothing, like an hour or two here and there. I barely ate. And I ended up, check this out. I asked for help. They called 911. And when the guys came, they said, "What's wrong?" And I cried. And when I cried, they said, "He's going to the hospital." I cried. You crack, you cry, you object, you throw a wrench in the mainstream expectations, and you're sick on a level. I went to, it's like a cliche. They took me to Bellevue Hospital. And I am surrounded by enough love. I had enough training already in certain systems that I just went, these people don't fucking get me. And they did. They diagnosed me within 15 minutes. After 5 days of no sleep, and I was breaking up with my girlfriend, incidentally, and losing my career. All these things, pretty straightforward problems, right? But they're like, "You're manic depressive bipolar." And they were ready to put drugs in me. That's what they do. They don't know. Too many, way too many. The majority, mainstream doctors don't know what's actually happening. So when you really are scared, because it really does suck to have your life falling apart, to have thoughts going haywire, to have feelings going berserk, to have a wounded, a pain in your heart, and you really need help, and you really need trust. But if you ask the wrong people, you're stuck. You're trapped in a diagnosis that they don't have a fucking clue what's really going on with you. And the beauty is that people do. This is happening in waves. There are people all over this world now who do know what's going on. And it's up to us to make increasingly strong networks with each other that keep us sane. Second, keep sharing the tools. And then third, what I do believe that I'm called to be in many ways is we got to go a step further to start creating a reality that's so transcendent that we claim it, we own it, even though we might see things that they think are totally crazy. Totally absurdly beautiful is what I see. And the totally absurdly beautiful level of this is present every day. So I'm going to wrap up this aspect, and then I'm going to do a couple of readings. After years of searching, I broke through and I started talking to angels. And at first I was talking to everybody. What happened for me, and I haven't encountered this often, so I'm always curious when anyone reflects that you have a similar experience, but I pushed so hard that I tore down all the boundaries, and I could just, anything I focused on, I could talk to. Anyone I thought about, I could talk to. And it was fucking terrifying. Like, it was way too much. And I had to learn the discipline to learn to focus my mind. And quite frankly, it didn't work very well. I did a ton of yoga. I did a ton of meditation. I smoked a lot of pot, which helped, to be honest with you. It was actually grounding for me. It was a bargain. Like, I certainly lost focus on plenty of levels, but it was preferable to what I was going through otherwise. And over time, I got better, and I learned more, and the more effectively my routines and my practices worked, the less I relied on unhealthy responses. And eventually, I started to develop the discipline to just focus on one angel. And that was frequently Thoth. And he pushed me through it. It was not easy. But when I learned the discipline to essentially ask, you have to ask. It's your choice. It's your freedom of will. I would practically beg him to just tell me what to do. No, what do you want to do? He's like, "I've got ideas for you. I've got, a calling for you, but you have to really contribute to this. You have to create with me. You have to assert, you have to be clear. What is your priority? When do you want to do this? What do you like?" It's a tremendous amount of respect. And it was very difficult for me to deal with. But the discipline of it was to say, I'm going to keep focusing. I'm going to keep focusing. And what it did for me was it recreated, like, why do people develop spiritual practices? Because you need to create coherence in the storm. And that's what I'm trying to do on this channel, is to give you a lot of the tools that I used. And now I'm going to do another class next week. Let's put it this way. Okay. Next week, 10 o'clock, Tuesday. And in that, I'm going to navigate from sharing a theme and then bringing it into some readings and some questions. So this theme is that it's up to you to develop this discipline. And I believe that it is far more effective to encourage people to explore and experiment and to use practices that I share with you they're open to exploration. I'm not trying to lock you into doing the same damn thing every time. I really encourage you to memorize the breathing, the 12 essential breathing exercises, the basic chakra yoga, the 12 yoga poses, the break. It's the simplified version of the basic chakra yoga. Memorize them. But once you have them, you can start exploring and expanding from there. And it's in the exploration, it's in developing your own relationship to yourself that you create space to listen. Because once you develop enough presence to recognize what you're feeling in your body and to discern, is this physical or is this energetic? Once you begin to recognize that different parts of your body are acting up in different situations, you have this daily way to navigate choices. Your gut, your navel will tell you when you're in the wrong situation. It will tell you when you need it. The most fundamental gift is to say you're in the wrong environment. You get a gut instinct that something's wrong. Or you're about to make a deal, you're about to accept someone who's going to work for you or do something for you, or you're about to hire someone to give you a massage. You can learn to get so good that you just stare at their name. You stare at their webpage with their picture and feel your gut. It will tell you about them. It will tell you whether this fits. The first level, rudimentary, is this a good fit or not? And then you tune in. Breathe into your gut. Breathe into your gut right now. Get a breath down in your belly. And then you just start to reflect. What is it that my gut has to say? Okay, excellent. So and I've resisted this, and frankly, I'm not proud of myself for it. I believe that cannabis is here as a basic sort of self-medication for people. Meaning, if you think you need it, it's there. The thing about it is, if you do too much, you get numb. I don't believe in the word lazy, but you get lethargic for sure, and you won't accomplish much. So I encourage a very basic relationship to this. What I did was I said, I have to keep myself clean. I have to keep my space relatively clean and neat. I have to eat decently. I have to do yoga, and I have to make music. All 5 of those things, and as long as I did those things, I would let myself smoke. And what I found was when I removed the up down of it, the guilt shame model, like I used to, when I first went through my awakenings, I took all my pot and flushed it down the toilet, very dramatically and stuff. And I would go months without it, but then I wouldn't function as well. And so I navigated that change by saying, you have permission to use this. Now watch, watch what happens. No guilt, no shame, just watch. And so over time, I just chose to do less, because in many circumstances, I would watch it cross from being effective and helping me to being non-functional. Now, I maintain studying is important, but doing yoga and making music was even more important, because doing yoga and making music shaped the vibe for me. So I could, I mean, not any music, but something that's relatively simple and clear, can function as a spiritual mantra, can focus your groove. Don't start singing angst songs about how terrible your ex is, but you know, don't do that. But anything that's can help you channel what you're feeling is going to be fundamentally protective. And I found that cannabis helped me do that. And I also found that if I set the intention clearly, I would get out of the lethargic space where I would like eat too much. I would actually get in a space where I didn't need to eat as much, and I could meditate and do a lot of yoga. And when you meditate and do a lot of yoga, it's functioning. No matter what gets you there, it's affecting you. So it doesn't have to be great. Just the commitment and the discipline to do it will reshape your consciousness. And then after a while, I would just increasingly be like, oh, when I smoked again, I just sat still for hours. So every time I realized that I put myself in that lethargic space, I would stop, and I gradually trained myself out of it. And what I found after years was that I carried trauma. I carried childhood trauma up until a couple of years ago. And I did layers of healing on it 15 years ago that were fundamentally liberating, but I didn't do it all. I didn't do all the work. I still had repressed some stuff. And all the way until I dealt with my core trauma, I still had a sort of needy relationship with it. What it did was it helped me take my inner pain and turn it into something else. And it wasn't great. I wasn't highly functional, but I wrote songs. I practiced yoga. I did my basic work. I wrote down my practices. I taught some sessions. I taught some classes. I taught some sessions. It helped me function decently on the path that I needed to be on. Then, when I had the support and the love and the maturity to go back and face the next level of trauma, my need changed a lot. Like now it's like every once in a while I still smoke. And it hasn't been particularly effective, but it's a little bit like nostalgic. And then it's easy. It's like I'm aware, well, that was I just kind of sat still a lot. That wasn't super fun. And then I don't want to do it as much. But if you have a sort of, with this substance, not with every substance, but with this particular substance, if you have a consistent draw, you probably are suffering. You're probably suffering. And the real problem is that you're suffering. And you need to tend that. You need to get help with that. You need to get support with that. That's the priority. And shifting your mind into spiritual extremes can only help distract. It won't help heal if you don't get back into the practical level of like, what are your feelings? What's in pain? Who can help me? What's going to really help? And I just made this 7. I feel like maybe people don't like this side of me or something, but they're not particularly catching on these 2 videos I made last week about 8 questions you can ask a spiritual teacher and 7 different disciplines for spiritual awakenings. But I just really encourage you to look at that 7 different teachers, because these are the people who are present in most communities who can help you deal with trauma and pain. And when you go through a spiritual awakening, those things come up, and nothing is more important than getting support to cleanse them, because they're in the way of you functioning on the high level of vibrancy that your system now wants you to function on. Um, wow. So here's what I can say. And I've just read Haldi's comment first, so that's what I'm responding to, but I think I missed some, so I'll go back. I disowned my family. They responded to, when I had some trauma come up, they responded to me in a way that made it worse. And that was the only measure that made sense. That I shared that I was having memories of trauma, and they responded to me in a way that made it much worse. They treated me as if maybe I was crazy. So I disowned them. And I was prepared to keep that boundary. And they changed. And they reached out to me in a way that was deeply loving and present. Not one perfect, but the shift was very palpable. And I don't know how to quantify it, but I could tell that they were committed to loving me more than maintaining their bullshit. And it was true. And I actually ended up coming back to my hometown for a couple months when I was 31. And we all did therapy together. We all did EMDR therapy together, all of us. And what saved my ass was that the EMDR therapist herself said, guess what? When one person in a family goes through a trauma like this, the whole family's fucked up. You can't pin this. And it's a fundamental distinction that you can learn to measure, because often what happens is one awakening member of a family will wake up. They will identify the traumas that are, there's toxicity in every family. So they start to get perspective on this toxicity and they call it out, and the whole family can turn on them because the rest of the family doesn't want to deal with this shit, right? So if you get caught in that relationship, there's nothing you can do but say no. You have to be mature enough to say no clearly with the hope that it will change. That's what I found. I wasn't nasty. I wasn't cruel. I just said no. I will not engage with you. And I was intuitive. I was just like, I just felt their reaction. I didn't have enough awareness to say what they're doing is they're projecting on me. And that's what they were doing. They were projecting their pain onto me as if I was the one with all the problems. So my problems got worse, whatever they thought with me. So this therapist saved my ass because she said, you all have work to do. And they accepted it. And everything changed. Like I can still remember crying in that room. Everything changed when she said that. And it worked. They went to personal sessions with her and we went to family sessions with her like every week. I mean, every week we were doing multiple sessions, and it really helped us turn a corner. So my perspective on families in this way is, if it's bad, if you are identifying like abuse patterns, you might have to cut them. But cut them in a way that says, I'm here when you're ready to deal with it. And that consistency will be a godsend for you. Like I had such peaceful months. It was so sad, but I lived on a houseboat. I got help. I lived on a houseboat in Berkeley, and I would watch the sunset every night. And when I was cut off from my family, and I was just peaceful. I did yoga on the deck of the boat. And we're talking, like I prayed my ass off for help. It was a unique opportunity that Spirit brought me. And I believe those are available to everyone who opens to them. I did not have a lot of money, but I accepted the opportunity was there. The world took care of me until my family was ready for me. In between, my perspective is, don't share too much. You have to first and foremost identify this projection relationship. So it is 100% natural for when you're waking up, you're going to start to gain perspective on dysfunctional dynamics that everyone's put up with. It's been normal for a long time. In almost every family, dysfunctional dynamics are normal. So you're all caught in this dysfunction, but it's normal to all of you, so you all reinforce it. The person who's awakening steps outside it and says, wait a second, this is fucked up. And then that really threatens everybody else. And they can typically zero in and reject you. They make you the problem because you are. You're forcing them to deal with the problem. So at that point, you have to identify honestly to yourself if that's happening, and just don't try. Maybe still have dinner with them. Don't try to explain it. You need to be 100% committed to making yourself strong and clear and healthy, and being an active force to give them a chance. Because the reality is, underneath, their deep spirit loves you. Their deep spirit loves you. Our higher selves really want the best. And there's no other geometry to it. When people are caught in dysfunctional karma, you share it for a decade in your family, 2 decades, 3 decades. If it's going to change, one person has to go first. If that's you, get into the part of yourself that volunteered, okay? Get into the part of yourself that was bold enough to say, I can handle this, and handle it. Get strong, get healthy, get clear, do work with a therapist, get help from 3 people who can really ground you outside the system, neutral people who can really support you. And pray to God that they'll be ready to do their work. Todd. I love it. Okay, I just read, forgive me, I'm reading like in reverse order. Um, Todd, yes. Like basically I support the use, and I support self-scrutiny. I support really being present with making sure the foundations of your life are functioning solidly. Wash the dishes. Don't leave dirty dishes. Don't leave dirty clothes like that. Next, be restrained. Be restrained in a way that, I got to the point where I would take one hit and I wouldn't smoke again. Sometimes I would do that one hit for 2 hours, and sometimes I'd do it one hit for the rest of the day. And then I'd use it to do a long yoga practice. I'm talking, I would do an hour, 2 hour practices. And, again, they wouldn't necessarily be good. I would often be yin, very slow, not precise, but I would do it. I would do it. And my commitment to doing it would shift my consciousness into a space where I would carry for the rest of the day. I'd be really in a good space. Okay, Eddie, how did I develop the level of awareness necessary to recognize these energies and chakras? I loved it. You start with your heart. You start with your heart. You check in with your heart every day. The human being is a heart-based instrument. So by spending just a little time, these 3-minute meditations, the 3-minute heart mind coherence meditation is just, you could do that 3 times a day and it would be great for you. Or develop some version of that, 3 minutes of listening like this with your hand on your heart. The beauty of listening to your heart helps you become aware of resonance most through here. You could just do that as a commitment for quite a while. Then start to be curious about the other chakras. So now I've been called and I've asked 9,000 times if this is the right way, and I get yes, that I've been called to teach you about the 12 chakra system right away. It's not how I learned it. I learned about the 7 chakras right away. But they're more necessary now than in the past, like the 12 chakras. And going through this cycle in the key ring cycle is very, very helpful for cultivating your awareness. And what I'm encouraging people to do is do this with a quick 12 chakra meditation. You do it and you learn to breathe one breath with each chakra. One breath into the heart, one breath into the crown, one breath into the throat, one breath into the pelvis. And I encourage you to journal and pay attention which were easy to focus on and which were difficult. That's a phenomenal amount of information, just that, which were easy to focus on and which were difficult. As soon as you know that it's difficult for you to focus on certain chakras, you know that something's going on there. You just have to believe it. It's your belief that becomes the missing piece. If you believe that this matters, you'll start to pay more attention. It becomes a circle. And don't overdo it. Like, more is not more. Like, that's why I'm doing a lot of 3-minute meditations. You need to want more. So I don't encourage you to push more than 20 minutes ever. And 3 minutes daily, like a couple times a day. Push yourself to do 3 minutes and set it down. But that amount of commitment will really help you. And over time, you'll begin to be more aware in a way that you'll need more. Okay. Divine cellophane. So I'm answering your discipline question as well. Recognize what your body will go along with. So you set strong intentions, but be really gracious with yourself if they don't work. There's no failure. There's only curiosity. Like, I really thought I wanted to do that 5-mile run. I really thought I wanted to do that 5-mile run, but I couldn't. So how far did you get? And if you got 2 miles and you know that that was good, stay there. Like, I'm a big believer in identify exactly a little before you don't like it. A little before you don't like it. I've pushed myself through so many periods of physical exertion in which, I kept going when I was sort of suffering. And I've done it for years. And I assure you, it is more effective to scale it back and build just with the joy. Because if you do 2 miles of running a day for a couple months, you're going to be able to do 3 much more easily. There's no need to push yourself into suffering every time. All you're going to do is develop a relationship with suffering, and ultimately you'll resent what you're doing. And the same entirely goes for yoga. So in yoga, there's this, I wasn't going to go into this, but I will. In yoga, there's this relationship that I want you to cultivate to your own edge. In my experience, and I've taught yoga for 15, 16 years. In my experience, there's an epidemic of people going past their edge. And they don't think they're past their edge because everyone's looking. You look at other people, you look at videos, you look at pictures of what other people accomplish. And so you're trying to get into that form. And that goal-driven ideology takes you right out of your body. So you're not paying attention to what your body's telling you. And almost invariably, true discipline would be to get into that pose, the foundation of the pose, and then start to go and stop right when you lose your center and right when you lose your breath. This is the discipline. Your discipline is to draw those boundaries and stick with them. Because if you push past that, you're creating what I call donuts, okay? Do not. You're getting something sweet that looks pretty, but it makes you feel like shit. You pushed your fingertips all the way past your toes, but everything was contorted and you left your body in tension. That's not an accomplishment. That's not an achievement. You succeeded in a mental goal to get yourself too far, or a mental goal of whatever other version of discipline you might have put down. But the consequence is that your body's reacting against you. So what we're going for here is a conversation between your mind, your body, and your spirit. We're trying to get these 3 things to work together, and that's where your discipline goes. And what I'm telling you as your spiritual teacher, as long as you're here, I'm telling you, I've created simple, shorter practices that I encourage you to learn. The basic chakra yoga practice, the 5-minute, 12 poses, 2 breaths per pose. Learn it, memorize it. The 3-minute meditations, not even the longer meditations, just the 3-minute ones. Learn those. Once you know those, you have the foundation pieces to learn to integrate your mind, your body, and your spirit in ways that are going to be increasingly effective, and I'm going to increasingly talk about in these classes. So, well, thank you. Thank you, Eddie. Look, I just made this video about 8 questions to ask of a spiritual teacher. I really encourage you to think about those questions with different teachers. My true opinion on Sadhguru in particular is that he's out of whack. And I realize that this might sound a little absurd to you, but he made a long speech against alcohol and pot. And it was out of tune with reality. He basically said, alcohol inhibits your consciousness. Why would you do anything that inhibits your consciousness? Therefore, it is bad. It's a complete mischaracterization of reality. Talk to Gaia. He's not talking with Gaia. Talk with Gaia about what alcohol is. Alcohol has a place. Alcohol helps you end things. It helps you end things. So that's why it's good for celebrations. It doesn't take much. A drink helps do it. There's nothing wrong with restraint. But this inability to recognize that things have a place that can also be misused is it's tragic, And so when people make tragic choices of how they channel their thoughts, I immediately go red flag, red flag, red flag. Then I just go into this space of, look, there is extraordinary power in tapping into a channel of energy that goes with a lineage. It's very powerful. And what this does is it says someone comes to a traditional guru who's tapped into a lineage and they have alcoholism. This guru can presence them, can hold them still in a way that helps shift their consciousness and let go of the alcoholism. They stop being as tragic and aggressive at home. They stop, wasting, gambling. Lots of really good things can happen when someone learns from a traditional guru in this way. And it's extraordinary medicine on a level that is unparalleled. So this has been going on for millennia. Some of these original yoga, I have so much appreciation for the roots of yoga. They all Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley. They were a beautiful culture, and they have the roots of like very articulate little. That we've never deciphered the language of this original Indus Valley civilization, but they're beautiful etchings of yoga poses from 4,000 years ago. When you tap into a lineage that is that ancient, you can radically shift your consciousness. It's a huge gift. And that's why they're so focused and so controlling in a way. And it's just, I believe it's tragically unsuited in many ways for Western culture. That what's happened in the West is we desperately need a lot of what they have very badly. We lack it. And so it can have a phenomenal influence on people. They introduce the energy, and it's not just yoga. Okay, when you do yoga with a teacher, you are vibing with their vibe. It's well known to yogis that it's almost more important that you're vibing with their vibe than that you're doing the practice. Okay, so the more you practice yoga, the more you'll learn this. And whoever you're doing yoga with, if you keep changing, you're getting all sorts of different vibes going in your system if they're not part of the same lineage. And that's why people commit to a particular lineage. But some of the basic tools are just in the practices themselves, in the techniques themselves. And Americans need this stuff. We're not getting up from our screens. We're not walking when we need to. We're not drinking water. People eat rather than exercise so frequently. So the power that I see that we need most is in being exposed to it and then exploring it on our own. But so many the Western intellectual disease, I had a Native American shaman articulate this to me. There's a Western intellectual disease, and the Western intellectual disease is essentially we're trying to use our minds in this culture, trying to use our minds to resolve problems that are not fundamentally mental. And when a problem is not fundamentally mental, but we're trying to use our minds to resolve it, you just tie yourself in knots. You need spirit. You need healthy body practices. If you commit to a teacher or a discipline that has very rigid rules, you have to understand that those rigid rules are often designed to keep coherence to the spiritual vibe. They're offering that vibe. A lot of people depend on that vibe. That vibe liberates abusive husbands and alcoholics, and it helps people change some of the worst behaviors. So there's an incredible priority within these communities on maintaining those disciplines, and they use techniques that I believe are fundamentally detrimental to many of the people I know and grew up with. They were definitely detrimental to me. So I know from my consciousness, I moved past a lot of what they do, not because I'm particularly anything, but because I learned from teachers who told me that a lot of what I'm just telling you, and that there are many safeguards in yogic approaches that are too safe. They keep you too down. They keep you too grounded, and they prevent you from accessing your own spiritual wisdom under the theory that you're not ready to handle it. Well, everything that I've learned says this is a new era. The spiritual vibes are more vivid. You are already in touch with divine forces on your own. That's a big part of your problem, right? You know that. I'm talking to all of you. You are already in touch with your own divine presence. You need to learn how to navigate that. You don't need me to pin you and hold you down. I can't. I'm not with you enough. But you do need somebody who can hold you for a little while, help you tune in, and help you commit to the kinds of discipline that will make you the one who gets your own spiritual intuitive guidance. And that is preferable It is preferable to be able to tap into your own guidance than it is to depend on someone else to do it for you. And that's with all respect for a guru who can play that role that helps someone change, some of the most toxic behavior. I am particularly focused on teaching people in a way which you will learn how to transform the balance of your life. You will learn to navigate through toxic behaviors, but you will be in your own reverie, your own connection to divinity that helps make those choices and keeps them focused. And it would be detrimental for you to turn yourself over too much to another teacher or another discipline, another lineage, because you would have to follow practices that would actually inhibit a lot of the strength that's waking up in you. I hope that's clear. This is a big foundation of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. My belief is that there's enough room in the world for all of us. I am here for people who, you're wild. It's in the name. You're wild. You know that you are in need of support, but that you don't want to kiss my ass. You don't want to turn yourself over to me. You don't want to revere me in a way that loses your own agency. And I believe I'm attracting just the right people. I can tell from how you talk to me that I'm attracting people like that. And if you know that it works, stick with it, because I really don't believe, Eddie, there's no way you'd be suited to turning yourself completely over to another guru who just told you what to do. It wouldn't work. So I am familiar with it. I have not read it. I've seen, a lot of lectures and such. With all due respect to everyone, I really have trouble reading now, so I don't read nearly as much as I did when I was younger. Here's what I offer. It's a fundamentally necessary teaching, and I'm helping people navigate this space where you learn to understand that service to self is service to others. When you fundamentally understand who you really are and what you really are, you would never again try to do anything but serve in the world. It's not an either or equation at this point. The reason people diverge from this is very simple and honestly quite terrifying. We're much more powerful than we think we are, much more. And your power is latent. A lot of your power is present in your body. Every day you wake up, it's not somewhere else. It's not something you become. It's here. Wake up and you negate it. You pin it. If you look at this reclaim your energy video, it's really fundamental. We are, all of us, in relationship to ourself, where we gain access to more power before we know how to use that more power. What a lot of people do is they are wounded. And so a part of themselves, a proportion of their spirit, 40% of their spirit is dysfunctional. It's not healthy. But they don't have the tools, the moral support, the discipline, the love to heal that, to seek healing. And so they develop coping mechanisms, and their coping mechanisms are selfish. But they're coming from a woundedness. And it's a woundedness that's so prevalent that people just think it's normal. But really, they're suffering. Mean people are suffering. And what they do is they try to hurt someone else. They try to get a relationship where they're the boss and they can push someone else down. They can insult someone every day. They can make someone else do their grunt work. And really what's going on is that they need that experience of being over someone else. This is service to self. And it ends up being greedier, and they acquire and accumulate. But when you stare at this, what they're really trying to do is avoid their own suffering. And their suffering is present in them in a way that could heal. If they had access to the right teachers and healers and love, they could heal that, and they would not be suffering that way anymore. And once that suffering ceased, they wouldn't want to torture other people. They would not want to push someone else down. It's not a gift anymore. So a deep but very simple awareness of who you really are says, identify your suffering, work to heal your suffering, then you're going to start to want to live in a thriving community. And at this point, you start to talk more directly to Gaia. When you're suffering, you can't talk to angels particularly well. There's too much static in the way. But once you start to get out of your suffering, you start to talk to the earth. And she says, hey, it's okay to have some nice things. Like, it's all about the relationship to them. Do you cherish them? Do you thank her for the gift she's giving you? Do you honor that a new couch comes from her? It's hers. It's her stuff. It's her stuff that made that couch. And when you start to relate to reality in this way, it's not selfish anymore. You're serving the world, and you end up, my needs are met. Okay. Like, I need income because we need to be sustainable, but we have money. I have a house. It's a nice house. We have a nice yard. We eat well. I have good friends. I live in a beautiful community. I live in one of the most beautiful places on the planet, in my opinion. We have waterfalls all around us. So naturally, what happens to me is, as I balance all these things, I'm thinking about two things. How can I help the most people possible and make a reasonable amount of money? I have no other interest. I want to help a lot of people well. And when I say most people, I would not want to sacrifice building, some degree of personal relationships with many of you, where I know you, I'm excited when you show up, so there's this dynamic balance that I get to explore into the future of how many is the right fit, but I really want to help, and I want to share if I can share my work in a way, when I make a video, it's no skin off my back if 1,000 people see it or 10 people see it, right? So the thought of charging people for stuff where there's nothing that changes for me doesn't make sense. So it's like, if I can produce something that gets to a lot of people, well, then it's the same amount of effort for me. I want to help you. And all I have to do is navigate my ego stuff. Like, who gives a shit if I'm popular or famous or anything like that? And just be like, really, truly, how can I serve in a way that's a great blessing to you? And then I get some good coffee. I like coffee, I get that. We had a great garden, so we live decently, but you don't even want to overconsume when you're happy. And this is all by way of saying, this is how I think I relate next door to that material, is that I think that material is specifically designed to help people distinguish who you're dealing with. So you can really see. It's devastating work, really, because a lot of times you go through life and think people are normal, and then all of a sudden you really have to come to grips with the fact this person is fundamentally motivated just for themselves. And my contribution to this is to see under that. They are suffering. They are not really powerful. Let's build a different world. Let's build a different world beyond what they are. So this is beautiful. I love doing this. Oh, wait. Maha. Oh, man. I have. And I've been working with an artist who, for years, she made one series of chakra images for the first edition of my book, which I just did a sort of limited publishing, and I loved them. They were great, and so those are the same images that are in the 12 chakra video. And I told her that I was republishing it and stuff like that, and she said she wanted to make new ones, and so she is completing those images right now, and I am digesting like the very last nitpicky edits. So within a week, I want to get this to the publisher, and I'm working with a publisher, and it's going to go straight to Amazon. I hope by the Christmas season, and I really think you'll love it. And this is, something that I'll sell. I'm so proud of it. Like, I really think it's the best job I could do with this information. And for those of you who are interested enough, I think it'll make a lot of sense by bringing together many of the pieces that I'm sharing online in this way. So yes, I'm going to share what I'm just going to do. All right. So I'm going to introduce this, and I haven't been teaching this online, and now I'm going to. Um, it's a very simple combination of techniques where you tune in to a chakra, to your heart. You breathe with it, slow your breathing, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And now I see a screen in front of my eyes, in my third eye, and with my eyes closed. And I say, Heart, what do you have to tell me? Oh. So my heart says, I'm too ready to fight, to defend myself. That no one's here threatening me. No one's here to attack me. I don't need to be ready to punch. I just got a picture of a boxing glove going out like this. And I asked, and I just know. I work well with an image like that, and I get them. And once I have it, it's very easy for me to remember. And be honest with you. I think it's very healthy for me to be honest with you and let you know like what spaces I am, what kind of corrections I make for myself. So I just learned that about me, and you could use the same kind of thing for you. Now, what I do is then I do the same thing when I do readings. So I will now do some readings on people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my space, open a circle around me. And then if anyone wants a reading, I'm going to tune into you. I'm going to ask what I can most do to help you. And I'm going to open the screen, and I'll learn from there and share. So if you'd like a reading, say, yes, I would like a reading. And otherwise I'll babble about something if no one says so. Okay, divine, cellified. Oh, wow, we got 3. All right. So I think what you need most, tears come so easily. I think what you need most is reinforcement that you really are much more awake than most of the people you're close to. And it's very difficult. It's lonely. You're getting blamed for other people's problems. And you really are seeing things that are going wrong that no one's ready to address. Everybody here, if you could just witness that, because I think a lot of you could probably relate to it, but I'm sure this is the biggest challenge you're facing, and you need to know it and trust it. It's not an ego thing. I discourage you from being high about it. And if anything, I encourage you to you must have volunteered this. No, in my experience, nobody ends up in this position unless you're deep, you're tough. You said I could do it. So it's up to us to help support you in maintaining that commitment and that discipline, because I have so much love for brave souls that awaken in communities where it's not common, and there's not a lot of support, and you start to see the pain in the people around you, and you just need to believe that it's real. You don't need to convince them. It won't work. Don't red pill them. Don't tell them what's going on with them. Don't try to force them to understand. Won't work. You just need to believe in yourself that this is real. It's really what's happening. It's really hard. Heart. When I do these readings, I'm going to give people heart. You just need to work with your heart. Your heart is in pain. It's lonely. You need to love yourself, and you need to have compassion for yourself, that this is really what you're going through. core of what you're going through. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to keep doing these, I want you to hear that I'm suggesting, encouraging you to work with your heart. Remember that. And if in the future you ask for another reading and I don't remember what I have said the last time I did it, you can remind me that we said work with the heart, and that'll really help us focus. Maha. You're funny. You're very at peace with certain depths. I genuinely support this in you in a way that's going to work. I'm not going to you. I sense a spirit that knows full well that you're extremely capable in certain ways, senses that it's a little, you don't want to lose your edge, you know. You have your respect is real, and yet you don't want it to work in a way that you lose your edge. I don't know why it's so funny. Power, navel. Wow. Yeah. It's congested. Like you're not using your power enough. You're being meeker than you really are. I mean, it's not like it's just in relationship. You are not using your power enough. You're not using your power enough. You have a clear vision of how to use your power, but it's not happening yet. And it's time. You need action. You need to put some things in motion, and you seem to know what those things are. So the beauty is here, I can see that your third eye is clear. It's rainbow, like you've got a clear vision of what you need to do. But the navel is congested. It's like you have too much food there. You have too much power there, and it's not flowing out into the world. So the other side of in the key ring, navel, third eye, navel, chin. This is about trust. So you need to, you're blocked trusting your next step, and you know what to do. So at this, there's no more preparation. You need to do it, and then you'll see. The chin is beautiful because it always teaches this lesson. You need to act to see more clearly how to proceed from there, and you know what to do. Oh, so I'm going to do Eddie's, but then I'm going to say to Design Cellophane, no, it doesn't look to me like you feel unworthy. It just, yeah. That doesn't come through. Just that you are genuinely ahead of many of the people around you in a way that you need to not, you need to not be like, you don't use that in your ego at all. Just own it. Just own it. Eddie. So the students came to the teacher and he said, teacher, how long will it take me to be enlightened? And the teacher said, 10 years. And the student says, yes, but I will get up early every day. I will work late every day. I will meditate twice as long. I will study during my meals. How long will it take for me to be enlightened? 20 years. That's you. That's you. Your heart is so strong. It's so pure, but you just constantly overdo it. And what you need is consistency. So you can't speed this process up through sheer force. What you need is to just keep investing in your spiritual health. And in your case, that in many ways means your physical health. You need consistent drink water first thing every day. Every day, first thing, wake all of you. First thing every day, wake up, drink water. Take care of the basics. Get those basics down. And it's so unexciting for you, but it's absolutely what you need is to get those foundations. Then you reevaluate what are you really capable of now. So you can't want what I am. You can't, or anyone else is. You can't emulate someone else and then suffer all the way until you get there. It doesn't work. You need to be very present with where you are, what is best for you. And in so many cases, I'm telling you, the basic commitment I'm asking everyone to make is 1 hour practice a week. One hour practice a week. One. And then 3 more 20-minute practices a week. That's doable. You can do that. And after that, if you do more, I do much more than that. But if you do more, want it. You need to want it. Not with your head, with your spirit, with your body. I want your spirit and your body to collaborate for more. Your mind has to help. Your mind gets to insist on 1 hour a week. The rest has to come from desire within you, in your spirit and your body. And once your spirit and your body start wanting more, it starts to happen naturally. Eddie, your biggest challenge is you're always ahead of that process. You're always trying to do more before you're ready. And you have to believe me that restraining that and just getting the foundations is going to have such a positive impact on you. And it's less is more, man. Less is more. But do it. And you, that's root. That's basic root. You need to meet your basic needs. You're skipping past your basic needs. You're not eating well. You're not drinking enough water. Admit it. Admit it. Get those basics and tidy up spaces. You don't have to be amazing, but keep spaces tidy. All of you. keep your basic, take care of your things. Your things are your gifts from the earth. Your things of the earth. Take care of them. Take care of them. Cherish them. And if you don't cherish them, get rid of them. If you don't cherish them, get rid of them. Eddie? Kavita. Kavita or Kavitha? Wow. The only thing you need to hear is that you're not crazy. That's it. And if that doesn't work, you must trust you're never gonna survive unless you get a little crazy. You must trust that the process of spiritual awakening induces this range of things, and everybody else freaks out, and their judgments are completely unacceptable, and a fierce, cold, hot light inside you, emotionally focused, saying, this chaos that you feel is life. It's life. You need skill, you need time, you need the discipline to channel it well. But this is pure life. And it stirs up everything. Of course it does. That's what it does. Life stirs up everything. It's stirring it up so you can be strong, so you can be clean, so you can be well. But it goes beyond yourself. You notice the pain around you. You notice, you take on burdens for other people. In the way you talk to them, you take on burdens for other people. You, in particular. Do I say Kavitha? I want to know if you have the opportunity to comment. Please. You need to be more focused inwards, and there's fear in you of being present inwards because you sense so much chaos internally sometimes that it's tempting to be outside yourself, and you end up feeling like you're more vulnerable because in a way you are, but it's coming from this strength that you're seeing so much. A lot of you could relate to this, but this is really your medicine most of all right now. You must trust that this is the way. There's no going back. And you will learn to be good at navigating your awareness, and you will learn to discern that a lot of the chaos you sense isn't yours. It isn't yours. You're just aware of it. There's a difference between hearing thoughts and owning them. And you'll be safer in that trust, without changing anything. Third eye, you're so close to having a clear vision of yourself in this. You have it. You just haven't trusted it. You need to work on maintaining your trust in your own sense that you do know what you're doing. You do trust this. You need to heighten it. You need to focus it. It's the most important thing for you to do, to keep trusting yourself in this. Keep trusting your vision of where you're going. It's good. It's clear. And it'll get into your heart if you build it with strength here. Todd. Today, the biggest challenge I see is a polarization with money. Um, you need it, and it's fine to just be at peace with that. It's sacral chakra. Sacral chakra often navigates financial issues. It's in your intimacy, in your trust, to just be at peace, like with the work you're doing, with the way that you can maintain a heightened, beautiful spiritual life in the normal world, fulfilling normal responsibilities. That this is your path. This is right for you. It is good for you. You wouldn't you wouldn't make a good sadhu. No offense. Like, you wouldn't be a good, like, abandon everything and wander around. Like, that wouldn't be better. It's not yours. And it's beautiful and it's fine and it's good for you to be at peace with the fact that you actually don't have to make that kind of dramatic a change. And it's such a burden to you that you have this low level sense that maybe you want to do that. It's strong. It's a strong low level, like, back burner, constant. Like, maybe I should give up everything. And no, it's not yours. That's it. That's it. Sacral. And then from there, to be at peace, like, the sacral chakra is balanced by the nose tip. The nose tip tells you what to do every day. And I have told you this on another occasion, but I can't reinforce enough. When the nose tip needs attention, it means putting a very high priority on taking a break when you need to take a break, getting some water when you need some water. And you need that so much. Like, it's just, it is not instinctive for you to do those things. And you need to learn to make it very normal, very natural. And again, like, often this advice, this guidance could apply to many of you. I'm not suggesting that you ignore it, but when I suggest that something's a priority, a big part of my gift is that I can help identify priorities. And you're a complex system. You're an ecosystem. You have many needs. You have many ways in which you can improve, but often it could be so overwhelming to tune into all of them that it can be very helpful for someone like me to be able to say, focus on this one for a week. A week is a great amount of time. Focus on this for a week. See what kind of change you make. Marquise. Okay, so first thing I think I need to tell you isn't a reading, but Mark, and please correct me if there's a better way for me to pronounce your name. I love your name; it's awesome, but I don't know that I'm saying it right. But Marquise sent me a list of questions for Thoth, and it kind of freaked me out. And I immediately prayed on it, and I got that he's helping me be my true self, and that I need to trust this and work with it. So I'm going to do a session where I sit down and record my answers without giving myself an opportunity to change them or anything like that. I'll just ask him and answer. But it does scare me, and yet I'm grateful. Like I respect you and appreciate your inspiration in this regard, and you need to know that. Next, for you personally. Well, you have had, is this for real? Okay, you have had um, a sense of being like some kind of financial tycoon. Is this for real? Like you've had a back burner dream that you could be like a rogue business executive that like has tax shelters in the Cayman Islands, and like you felt that as like an athletic challenge, like you could do that, and that you really have been you're being drawn in a very different way, and you honestly just have to say no to that and be like, can you make the choice at this point in your life to say, I'm just not going to play those games at all? And it's like, it's fine. I get the appeal. Like it's cool to take on a challenge of playing like a massive Monopoly game, but it doesn't suit you. And it's a really big thing to say no to a path without even exploring it much. And you have to ask yourself that question. Can you say no to that kind of path, to be like a management consultant and a globe-trotting, executive? Can you say no to that? Is this for real? Like, give me, is this for real? I'm wondering if I'm really accurate on this, but it's pretty strong. Can you say no without much reinforcement? So yeah, just say no, and or stare at yourself and ask yourself, can you make a commitment through a different path without exploring it more? Because I honestly don't think you're particularly suited to doing that bullshit. You have pressure from like other family members to explore in that kind of way, and it's a bigger challenge to say no, because people think of it as not living up to your potential, right? And yeah, I can be present with you and support you in saying no, because I think it's kind of a bullshit path myself. Wait, that's lungs, man. That's lungs. This is your plans. This is your commitments. This is the burdens you take on in life. You bear a burden of expectation that you should be successful in a particularly like wealthy lifestyle. And it's a burden. It's inhibiting you. You're young enough that it's just normal to you, but you'd be really liberated to just be able to say no solidly and calmly and not do it. Just say no. That's it. Wait, I saw somebody who said, I feel lost. Mayank, Wag, I feel lost. Does that mean you want a reading? I would be happy to give you one, but I can't. I need a clearer yes, I want a reading before I tune into someone's energy, because it's just too confusing for me otherwise. So say that below, and I'm going to move to Haldi. Do you have children? They like me? That was the first thing I got. Or maybe children you're close to? Succinct. love. You're very present and centered on a like you come from a space of love as a norm in a way that the entire world should exist, and unfortunately doesn't. But I definitely think you're on the future, and things are going to center more in a way that's very natural to you. And just by being you, you have a very easy impact on other people in this way. You need to know this. Your heart has not fully been able to grasp. It's great. It's like you have this amazing gift that like you it's like consternation is what I get. Like you just can't grasp how other people couldn't be more loving. And it's a beautiful strength. You haven't doubted it, but you just kind of been lost in this space of like, why isn't it like this? And just knowing, oh yeah, it's like there isn't some vast plan that you're supposed to do differently. Like this is what you're supposed to do is be when you resonate clearly in your heart, you are presencing it. It's already affecting people. There are no perfect words you need to put to that. It's there. It's happening. You need to trust that. I know this might seem basic, but oftentimes, particularly when I'm first reading people, the first things are basic because you just need to trust it. You need to trust your heart, that your heart's already in the right place, and give it that. Give it that. Relax a sense that anything else is necessary. So I'm just reading Maha's comment now. I'm suggesting that your navel is your priority, the before and after the navel in the sequence. So this isn't a chord. This is you're too good at this and you run ahead sometimes. But getting your system in tune, I often find it's just strictly focus on the circle of fifths pattern. Encourage people to focus on one chakra and then look at the one before and the one after it. And so the navel following is third eye and previous is chin. And keep the focus on the navel and then just navigate how you're relating to power from your vision of yourself in the world and from your trust in your actions. And my interpretation was that your vision's clear, your trust, you're just at this point where you need to take the steps. You don't need more information or insight, and trust that as you allow that power to flow, you're gonna gain more insight on what to do next. Don't wait because you won't be able to learn what to do next until you get yourself moving, get your power flowing. Hope that clarifies. Around you, I think. I had children near you. The first sentence I got, Haldy, was your children like me. So maybe I don't know. Whatever that might mean. Awesome. So at the moment, if I missed anyone, please, I'm sorry, just say again, yes, I would like a reading, but I'm doing my best to read through these things. Thank you for your reflections and your appreciation. This is, it's a really effective format. And again, we're getting on 2 hours. I think I'm going to limit myself to 2 hours. So you got 10 more minutes. I'm going to just kind of wrap up and say some last things. And no new themes. If you have any clarifications, let me know. This is it. This is what I've been aiming for. As I mentioned early in the broadcast, I was going to wait until I had 1,000 subscribers. For some reason, I didn't think I would have enough committed people, and that was just sort of a vague goal. And I'm just really thrilled to have the people who are here to build this. I want to tell you a couple of things about yesterday's channeling because it was kind of intense for me. I had a comment from uh, goodness, I don't know what's happening. Something's happening. I did need to tune in. Hmm. So, there's just someone arrived who isn't really in the right space, and I am rubber and you are glue. Whatever nasty ass shit you bring here bounces off me and sticks to you. And that is both funny and absolutely effective. So, whoa, yeah, huge change. So somebody really did show up who, isn't in the right space. Lenny, Lenny, yes. Oh, bless your heart. Like, forgive me. Like, I'm never going to assert that I'm always right when I do these readings. Readings, readings are like anything. Like static can get in the lines. Nonetheless, the first thing I got is that you are commitment phobic, and that is one of your biggest challenges right now. Commitments exist in large part in the lungs. I just want you to think about this chakra. It's where you commit to what you love. It's where you decide you're going to cultivate something over a long period of time. You need to cultivate things over a long period of time, but you're really scared to make that kind of commitment, and you're kind of frittering around a little bit with your attention in a way that's not effective. Like you don't need a broader grasp of what's out there, what exists, so to speak. You need to be ready to focus and build over time. Those are your needs. It's huge. It's deep. It's clear. So I'm not going to tell you what to commit to. I'm just saying you need to work towards commitment. And that doesn't mean dive in and like go to Vegas and get married with somebody. It just means think in terms of what do you need to feel safe in order to commit? And can you recognize the extent to which doubts are, they're sort of self-indulgent. Like you could bring up doubts as a way to avoid committing rather than as a way to be safe and practical. Find that balance between raising concerns in a way that can build trust and strength, and setting down and really trusting and stepping forward with a commitment, even though you're worried, because we all are. Cool. Good. I'm glad. Oh, Sunny. Hey, I'm from America. Good for you. Welcome here. Okay. Bless you guys. It feels a little haphazard, but I had the privilege of, I've started to explore. I go through these phases where I watch other people and then I don't watch anybody else on YouTube because I like want to keep a clear approach and try out some things. And then I branch out and I watch people. And this guy I really like, Tim something, video creators. He's teaching how to build YouTube channels, but I really like him. He's got a good presence and he does these live feeds and it really works. And he does this. He's like reading the things and he's talking to people who's reading the things, and it's a little awkward, but there's a real beauty in it. And I hope that it ends up being a blessing for you. Many of you have stayed, and I really appreciate that. And so overall, I hope you're getting value out of this time. And if you want to donate, you can PayPal Kaiya at wildflowerfire.com. I think I'm going to start putting that in a description link and just build it over time. Always appreciated. And I really do, you know, the likes and the shares help the YouTube algorithms. Like they literally go, wow, people are liking and sharing this video, and then they show it to more people. So it is a real gift to me to like and share the videos. I appreciate it if you introduce people that you love and care and respect about and know would be interested. Send them a personal link or something like that. It's a gift. Um, oh, thank you for the thanks. You guys, you guys are present in a way that's a real. It's really exciting for me. This is what I do. This is what I love, and um, it's it's never felt better. I've done readings for rooms full of people, festivals mostly. But I had classes and workshops where I do them as well, and I just do person after person, and it's a beautiful gift. But it's honestly, I mean, I'll do it again, but there's something more daunting about doing it, for anyone in the world. But it works just as well and a little less threatening. The boundaries with people who are right there are a little more amorphous, so it's kind of challenging to play that role. And I think I've wanted to set that opportunity down for a while. I'm also not the biggest fan of festivals. With all due respect, I just feel like everyone's not committed to anything really, just kind of fruiting around, kind of having fun with extreme spiritual truths. There's a lot of predatory behavior going on. It's just not really my thing anymore. And with all due respect, please introduce me to any festival that has a high level of care and good boundaries, and maybe I'll consider it. But it's been a while since I've done any festivals. And having the channel, there's just a clarity that I'm really excited to watch this grow. I'm going to do it every week, an hour to 2 hours. We'll see where the groove balances in there. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a really wonderful week. Oh, I wanted to explain this. So the entire theme of this was energetic awareness. And what I wanted to say is, someone commented that they really appreciate the way I'm relaying, like the way my voice ends up working. And I've gotten that a lot. The cool thing is that's what makes it work. Like what I do is I'm tuning in to the energy first, and I'm feeling an energetic link with both. And I speak, but if I try to go off in a different tangent, like the energy phrase, that's the only way I know how to put it, so that I slow down. And I end up going into this slower pace of talking than I would normally use. And that slower pace has an energetic flow that I'm like following. And then it just stops. And then I end and I'm like, what the fuck did I just say? And I'll listen to it and I'm like, wow, don't know if I can post that. And a lot of them I've been like, man, I don't know, like it's a lot. It's incredible. And I have no idea how to digest some of the information from yesterday's in particular, but that's what's there. That's what came through. That's what he wanted me to say. And I'm just going to keep doing it that way. So I welcome questions for thought, about the process and anything else. If you put them in links under videos, I do my best to answer them, and I will do my best to answer questions during these classes each week. Thank you for being here. I really hope you have a wonderful day. Encourage you to take as many breaks as you want, and drink water. First thing every day, drink water. Take a break, drink water. Stand up, go outside. Love life. Much love be with you and your family.